Oh, Dragon Feathers! It's time for the Skylanders SWAP Force video review. This is Calvin Martinez, Associate Editor for Gaming Illustrated. Here we're going to talk about some Skylanders today. In SWAP Force, Chaos is back again, and he's out to destroy the Skylanders again! This time his plan is to evilize one of the ancient elementals that comes together every 100 years or so to rejuvenate the magic in Skylands. By doing this, if he evilizes one of them, he'll be able to turn everything in Skylands evil. Thus, it's the job of the Skylanders to stop him, to save each of the elementals. This lends a kind of, basic game structure to everything, levels. Skylanders have to go rescue each one and have to do a couple of tasks beforehand. So, it's not a great story, but it's a nice way to give kind of plot and a Zelda-esque feel to the gameplay.
And there's nothing those sky losers can do about it.
Gameplay in Skylanders SWAP Force is pretty straightforward. It's your standard hack and slash melee action sort of thing. Each Skylander has a melee move that's used to wail on enemies, either it's long range or close range, depending on the Skylander. They each also have an evasive or throw move that's used to kind of either move out of the way or manage crowds. And eventually their stats upgrade as they get experience from enemies, and when they collect gold in the levels, they can upgrade their moves to either make moves more powerful or add additional moves or kind of change the pace of gameplay. The thing that makes gameplay shine the most in Skylanders SWAP Force is the boss fights. They add a little bit of variety to the gameplay. They're a little bit more complicated and challenging. The patterns are a little bit more interesting to learn, and it shows that combat in the game can be really fun when you have someone to really wail on and kind of, provides a challenge to the gamer. Boss fights usually involve a number of different patterns to learn, and they usually get more difficult as the player wears down the health of the boss. Certain ones involve environmental kind of tricks to take down the boss and get close into them. The kind of coolest boss fight is near the third elemental, where you fight a marionette puppeteer. It's a visually really interesting and musically well put together boss fight.
Go break up those crystals. You don't look so.
What prevents the gameplay from being standard hack and slash action stuff with light puzzle solving and fetch quest is the toy technology. It adds a layer of strategy because certain areas have elemental benefits that make combat a little bit more effective, and it allows players to really kind of experiment and try out which characters they like the most. With SWAP Force, they release a whole new line of characters, the SWAP Force figurines. These are figurines that can be switched between their tops and bottoms to allow different movesets to be combined. It gives players a chance to really experiment and try to see which kind of works best for them. Say they do not like long-range characters' attacks, but they like its evasive moves, so they can switch between a washbuckler and a hoot loop and create kind of a washbuckler with a nice combat melee move, but kind of can teleport around the area. With the addition of the SWAP Force, they've added areas that can only be unlocked with multiple elements. The problem is that not all the elements for the SWAP Force are available, so some of the stuff is still locked out in the game, and certain SWAP Force challenges are only accessed by SWAP Force characters that are also not out, which is a problem. But the SWAP Forces add a nice kind of mix to the gameplay and kind of are a fun little mini-game diversion. Overall, Skylanders SWAP Force will please those who have been invested in the franchise for the last few years. It adds a decent amount of depth with the inclusion of the SWAP Force and their ability to switch body parts to create different power combinations. The visuals are solid and the music is excellent. To those who have not been hooked on Skylanders, the game is solid with a decent variety to gameplay, but the lack of finesse to combat may make fighting through enemies and finding widgets a bit tiresome after a while. The novelty of swapping toys in the game goes a long way, but luckily beneath that there is a sturdy foundation to entertain when the novelty wears off.